Not the one for. I stayed up for the speech last night.
Oh no, I would say
2:30.
you had a busy week. Yeah.
Had a lot going on. Yeah, really a lot.
Busy seems to be the busiest this week.
We're up to Kuf Lamed Aleph. We're just going to review what the question was. Second line from the top. Kuf Lamed Aleph Amla. Boy Rabba. The Ber Yaheich. Kikam Rav Yochanan B'Shchemira. The Bar Orisuhu. Abu Ber Yeloya. Dilma Filu Ber Yana. So again, Rabbi Yochanan Broika had said his shita that if you have a bunch of sons, we learn from a pasuk that the father can designate. He says, "I'm deciding. I'm going to let this son preempt the other sons. As long as he's one of the Yarshim, he can decide to favor one Yerush over the others." The question is, under what circumstances does he say that? Does he say it only by Yeshchemira, that he's a Yerush? Meaning, because we learn it after the pasuk b'yem hanchilai, so it's only when there's a Yerusha at stake. But if it was 10 years beforehand, when he's healthy, and he says, "I'm already, and he's 30 years old," he says, "My son is so cute. I'm going to give my little son, he's going to be the Yerush over his 5-year-old brother and his 10-year-old brother." That wouldn't work because that's not within what the pasuk said. Maybe even by a bear. Amalei Mishashil Rabba Tashma. I'll bring you a raya. The Amalei Reb Nosson the Rebbe. Reb Nosson had asked a question to Rebbe. He had asked a kasha on Rebbe. Rebbe is the Tana. He's the one who was Masada the Mishnayis. So he said, "I think you made a mistake in the way you Masada the Mishnayis. Shanisa Mishnastam, you brought a Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan Broika. That pasuk like Rabbi Yochanan Broika. And l'chayra, we have it as a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan Broika and the Chachamim. And then you go and you say a Mishnah that is l'chayra only like Rabbi Yochanan Broika. If you were going to pasuk like Rabbi Yochanan Broika, you should have said so clearly. You shouldn't just say a Mishnah that comes out on the side. The Tanan. Where do we see a Mishnah where you, Rebbe, paskin like Rabbi Yochanan Broika without saying so? It's not. Lekosavlo b'nin dichrin, lekosavlo. If the man did not write into the ksuba the typical lashon, which the chachamu mesakin, b'nin dichrin the haven lech, the sons that you will have from me, minoi, inan yarsin kesef tzubasach. They should yarshin the money of your ksuba, yois al cholkein de machwet, over and above what they're entitled to from their brothers. So this is the ksubas b'nindichrin. This is the rule that when someone, let's say Shron has a daughter who marries, she marries Cohn, and her father Ruby says, "I want to give you the Empire State Building as a Yerusha. I want to give it to you as a dowry, as a nadin." And she comes into the marriage, and they write into the ksuba, and then unfortunately, Mrs. Coleman passes away. So her husband Yashas the Empire State Building from her. He got it, and he just had it as what they call nichsei mulug. And then when she died, it's supposed to revert to her, but she died, so he Yashas it. And then he remarries. He marries Mrs. Stein, and he has a bunch of dual sons from Stein. And Cohn, he had sons with Cohn, he had sons with Stein. So now, if he dies, the Empire State Building is going to be split between his sons from his new wife and his sons from the wife who had brought in this dowry. So Ruby Shron's going to be upset. He's not going to like it that his grandsons are not getting it. Some of it's going to the other woman's grandsons. So you write into the ksuba that those sons who are from this wife should get the entire nichsei malug that she brought in. It shouldn't be spread amongst the other sons of this husband. It reverts back to her. So if this is the chavu misakin, you should put this into ksuba. But they didn't do so. The husband writes a ksuba and gives it to the wife.
Right. So why is Mrs. Cohen's father, Mr. Shron, writing this stipulation in the ksuba?
No. The chachamu misakin in order to encourage Mr. Shron to give the dowry in the first place, you make this provision in the ksuba, so he'll be comfortable giving it. That it will eventually go to his grandchildren.
Meaning in the ksuba that Mr. Cohen is writing to Mr. Shron's daughter.
Yeah.
In order to entice Mr. Shron to include these things, this is a lashon that we in every ksuba.
Yeah.
Ksuba is written in every single ksuba.
It's a clause that is supposed to be in the ksuba. At least at that time. I don't know if
it's a man is encouraging. Tells the woman, whatever I'm getting from you, will pass on only to our children,
to our joint children.
To our future children.
Yeah. And this is written in the ksuba when they get married. But what happened if they didn't include this provision? Those children that I will have with you, Inan Yarson, they should yerish kesef ksubasech, the kesef, the dowry that's written into the ksuba, yoser achol kain, over and above what they're getting stamazai as children, they machuan together with their brothers, chay. Even if it was not written, it's considered as if it's written. He's still this ksubas dimendechron, even if it's not actually written, it gets the status as if it was written. Shetnai bezdinhu. This is a Tanai Bezdin. Bezdin requires this. Okay, so that is what it says in the Mishnah. So we have a problem. It says the lashon is inun yarsin. They should yarshin kesef tzubasech. So this is essentially a provision. This is the Chacham saying they're changing the order of Yerushas. They're making a Tanai of who should yarshin. It's not a gift. It's a preemption of Yerusha, right? We're saying that these sons should get a Yerusha before the other sons. That's Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika's thing. Right? This is Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika, essentially. We're saying we're writing in a clause in the Ksuba that certain brothers should get a Yerusha before other brothers.
Rabbi Breika says
he's the one who says that you can pick one son to get everything. Right? The Chacham say you can't do that.
In this case would not let you write such a ksuba?
Because you're saying it's the ksuba, but what is the ksuba saying? The ksuba is saying that when it comes to Yerusha, when the father dies, who gets the Yerusha? And that's lashon inin yarson. They should yarshin.
According to the Chacham, you won't be able to do such a thing.
Right. So it's a right to be a Chacham right. So we say, so this is a kasha on Rebbe. Rebbe, why did you make such a mishnah that paskins like Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika? Rebbe, Rebbe says you have a good point. Yasvan Tnan. The lashon has to be changed. You said in Inu Yarson, they should yarshin. It's Yasvan. They should already get that. It's a matana. It's not that they're going to, when the father eventually dies, they're going to get it. But he's giving it to them now as a matana at the time of when the ksuba is being written. Now, probably what occurs to you, being Talmudic scholars, it's a davar shalom ba'al. How could you give away something in the ksuba? These kids are not here. That you could give them something that they're not able to get. The Gemara will get back to that shortly. But in any case, and this is the hard part about this Gemara is not that the svaras are hard, but just the stance of the Gemara. The Gemara is not like doing a regular kasha teretz, but it's more the way it's structured. So that's so this is Rebbe's teretz to Reb Noson's question on it. But Amar Rebbe said after he gave this teretz that it's talking about a gift as opposed to a Yerusha, that the provision of Bnei Dichron is a gift and not a Yerusha. Yaldus Haisabi. This was a child, an immaturity on my part, that I quickly jumped to answer this. Ha'asti Ponei ben Nosson Abavli, and I responded to Reb Nosson, who was a Bavli, with sharpness. But I really I shouldn't have answered that. I shouldn't have responded and said that we switched the lashon and say that it's talking about the lashon of Nindichron is Yerusha as opposed to that it's a matan instead of Yerusha. The Kaimelon, and I'll tell you why. We have said that this din, that someone who gets a ksubas b'nin dichron, let's say you have this provision, so therefore it goes to the Shron daughter, the Shron Einiklach, that they get the Yerusha. If the father had already sold that property, that the dowry that had been given, they can't go and take it away from. They can't be taken away from a Shabbat. Right? Is that what it was saying? Yeah. But Shnuvas, Ksuvas ben Dichron leitofim Mishapti. They can't go and take it away from someone who had taken it. It means if someone was owed money and they took that as their payment, they can't take it away. So Esau
Empire was used as collateral.
Yeah.
On a deal, and he owed it to someone. So after he died, it sounds like after he died.
But he was Mishabbat to them from after he got married,
right?
But before he died, and now they're coming to take it.
After
they can't, right? Doesn't really, yeah. After he died, right?
If he's alive, then
it's back. Yeah, they can't take it away from him. So Isaac Adaitach Yasvintnan. If you'll say that this was a matana that the father was able to give to the Shron sons, then why wouldn't they be able to take it away from a Shabbat? Their lien predates this shibud, right? It was before the father lent money.
The matana predates.
Right. Well, they had a right to it, right? It was theirs. It was theirs before he gave it away. Why can't they take it away? Elishmamino, Yarsin. Elamai, it must be Yarsin. So there was another reason why. So Abaya says, right. So it has to be Yarsin Tnan. I shouldn't have changed it to Yasr. Now, as we're going to see, Reb Nosson still sticks with the teretz. But Rebbe has backed off. He's retracted his suggestion that it's a matana, and he says no, because otherwise, how could they be mishabed? How could they be mishabed? They would have it would have been theirs before the shibud came into existence. So that's the man shamalei this lehaisfar Rabbi. So this is the raya. So if we're saying so we're back to Rebbe saying it's a Yerusha. So this is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. Ushmamina afilu beberia. So finally getting back to our raya, right? Our question was, does the din of Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika only apply to a shchemeira? Does it even apply if it goes into effect earlier, before when he's healthy? We're saying now that this din of ksubas mendichron is an example of Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. It's a Yerusha that uses Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika, and that's when the husband is going into the marriage. He's not a shchemeira at that time. He doesn't even have children yet, so he's clearly healthy. And even so, we're saying he can give his children a Yerusha using the halacha of Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. So this is an answer of what we start with. Boy Rava beberia hayech. Does Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika say his din only by a shchemeira or by a beria? You see from this that according to Rebbe, Reb Nosson will still say it's talking over the yas, where he's giving it as a matana, but Rebbe concludes that it's talking about a Yerusha. Amalei Rav Papa Abaya. Rav Papa says to Abaya, Bein lemand ama yasv, bein lemand ama yarsen, ha'ein adam machna davar shelo ba'loilam. Why? What was this teretz that we said yarshin? According to them, it doesn't make a difference whether you say yarshin. We have a problem. Whether it was given to these children, the ksubas ben dichron, with the Yerusha or with the matana, you can't give over Yerusha. Even if you're using Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika, and you say you can't designate someone as a Yerush. But the Yerush is not here. So it's a davar shelo ba'loilam. You can't give something to someone who doesn't exist. And certainly if you're actually giving the ksubas ben dichron, you can't give it to someone who doesn't exist. Even if you say there is such a thing as giving over a davar shelo ba'loilam, if someone wants to sell the fruit of a tree that hasn't grown yet. That only means that you could sell the fruit of a tree to a person who exists. But to give something that you have now to someone who doesn't exist, like even Reb Meir, who says you can be makna davar shalai ba'olam. There's two parts, right? There's what you're giving and who you're giving it to. So the only machlekes is whether you can give something that doesn't yet exist to someone who does exist. But giving something that does exist to someone who doesn't exist, even Reb Meir doesn't allow. So again, how could this work? How is any of this working?
This is a kasha on.
So it's getting to the answer. The answer is going to be the point. This is going to be the answer for our raya. We're trying to answer up. He's responding to what we said. This is a raya that Rabbi Yochanan and Broika's din even applies to Beria.
Okay.
Because we didn't get to it yet.
Okay.
The teretz of this kasha that he's asking now is going to be.
So what's his kasha now? Just to get in what we're talking about.
His kasha is what? How can we discuss whether you're talking about saying that Tusim and Nichan works, which either way it works, you have a problem. It shouldn't work.
According to Rebbe, they tried to give a teretz.
Rebbe concluded they're talking about it's a gik, but it's still davar shalai ba'olam. And even on the Mishnah, whether you
this Mishnah has the one.
It doesn't make a difference if Rabbi Yochanan or not.
It's
whether it's going through a matana, which has nothing to do with Rabbi Yochanan, or which is what Rebbe's saying. Rebbe's saying it's a matana, or according to Reb Nosson, who's saying it's Rabbi Yochanan and Broika, and it's still davar shalai ba'olam. Ella. So what's the answer of this problem of davar shalai ba'olam? Tonight, Bez and Shani. The Chachamim Misakin, the Chachamim have a power of Hefker, Bez, and Hefker. They can override anything. If they see a necessity of imposing a new rule, they can do it, even if it's a davar shalai ba'olam. That means this is the way the Chachamim Misakin. They have full. If you're talking about a deraisa matana, then it's one thing. But if you're talking about a Tnai Bezin, that Bezin felt this was important in order to encourage people to give dowries, that you have to allow it to go to the grandchildren. They're saying that's the way it goes. Whether it's a matana, whether it's a Yerusha, this is the way we want it to work. Ella Tnai Bezin. Shani Hacha. Shani. So the Gemara, Hachanami Tnai Bezin Shani. So again, what were you trying to do? We were trying to bring a raya that the reason why this, according to Reb Nosson, who's saying that a taka works as a Yerusha. He didn't go along with Rebbe. The Rebbe switched it to a matana. He says Yerusha. And he's saying, it's like Rabbi Yochanan and Broika. We said, so you see Rabbi Yochanan and Broika even works by a Beria. We're saying, no, maybe just like we override the davar shalai ba'olam because it's a Tnai Bezdin, so we'll also override this Beria problem. Normally, you can only give one of the Yarshim when he's a Shemira, but over here the Chum wanted him to be able to put this into the Ksuba, so they allowed him to put even the Yerusha that's coming later. Rabbi Yochanan and Broika's din could even be outside Tnai Bezdin. So now, this is really Amalei. So now we're going back to this is a new question. Amalei mishum dekamapik le beloshin yarsin. So now we're trying to answer we're trying to explain why didn't Rebbe say this explanation? Why did he have to say it's talking about where it's giving us a matana? Why don't you say this is just a Tnai Bezin?
Rebbe himself backed off of.
So he said in the end that Rebbe said, no, Rebbe reapplied it. Rebbe backed off and he said, El Shemami no Yarsin Tznan.
We never want to explain what the teretz be according to Rebbe. Right? The original question of Rebbe was, Rebbe, why did you say the Mishnah only according to Rabbi Yochanan and Broika? You didn't add the Tanakama. So he said, you changed the lashon. He goes, you know what? I really should have answered that too quickly.
I should have I should have stuck with the Yerusha.
Yeah, but we just give an answer. Yeah, but it doesn't give an answer.
So,
but now we say I could have given this.
You could, but you really could have stuck to the gun.
Because it could have been who said Tnai Bezin shot.
So the Gemara. So let's see this from La Milsei Dam. The Vadil here circle Rebbe Loime Yasmin. Rebbe the bottom Rashba. Rebbe didn't have to say Yasmin. He didn't have to say Loy Shum Diok Masisin Afil Karabanas. We could have said that we don't have to answer in order to say why it's not like the question was why you passing like a bit, and he was trying to get out of it by saying no, we're not talking about a Yerusha, we're talking about a Matana. We could have answered without that. Am I reading the right thing? It's not. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. It's the previous Rashbam. The second to last Rashbam, about 7 lines up. That which he didn't. We're asking why didn't Rebbe answer in this way? The reason why Reb Nosson had the tain on him, why did you switch it? It must be because from the fact that the Rebbe used the Lashon Yarson, that there's a Lashon of Yerusha, that seems to indicate why would you use the Lashon Yerusha as opposed to a Lashon of Matana? The fact that you're using such a Lashon seems to indicate that you want to get involved in Rabbi Yochanan ben Brayta. From the necessity, it's not a raya now. We're saying that's an indication. Why wouldn't you have stuck to the simple case of matana? Since anyway we're in a free for all because of the din of shani hacha that it's tnai bezinu. That's why Rebbe said first yasin and then he had charap. The reason was because he didn't want to say, he didn't hold it, because we know that the din is that you can't take it away from Mishapi. And if that doesn't make sense if it was a matana that came previously. But Rebbe holds that from the fact that we use the Lashon Yaris and Taka would be problematic, it would indicate like a Rebbe Breika. Reb Nosson was okay with sticking with Yasser. Hadar Mabaya, Lav Milsa Hidiyam. Abaya says Rebbe did not have to say Yasser. Really, Rebbe was incorrect. I mean, Rebbe it wasn't necessary. It's not. Because the Mishnah continues. This Mishnah that had said the din of ksubas mendichon, if you don't write it, is included anyway. Even if you wouldn't have written it, it would have been good. It's not. Like Kosel the Mishnah continues. Like Kosel nukvin, Yahavan lechiminai, Yahavan yasam vebesi, Yazan mechsai. If he didn't write the second provision that they used to write, or was required to write, that any female children, like Kosel, if he didn't write this provision of non-nukvin, the female children, the that I will have from you, they will remain in the house, and they're going to be fed from the nechasim that you got as a dowry. Ad the tilach and ligvurin chayiv. Even if you didn't write that they get to have a right to live in the house and get mezainis before the brothers get their Yerusha, it's still going to be considered to be imputed as part of the ksuba. Shu tnai bezin, that's also tnai bezin. Matana. So the Gemara and the Kasha Rabbi is like this. So what it turns out is I have lezeba matana. This is certainly not a Yerusha that's going to Mizonis is a matana. Lezeba Yerusha, and the Bnin Dichrin part is a Yerusha. B'chol lezeba Yerusha lezeba zana afinu rabbanim mighty. Right. This we're saying in the Subak includes two provisions. It has, even if you'll say that the Bnin Dichrin is a Yerusha, and this mezainis to the nekavis is a matana. We had learned on the previous plot. If you have two different lashonis, the matana then spreads out and it takes over the lashon of Yerusha and it makes everything into a matana. So even it doesn't have to. You don't have to come on to Rebbe. Even if you have a lashon of Yerusha on the Ksubas Mendichon that we've been driving ourselves crazy on, it should anyway be a matana because of the second part of the Ksuba. Amalei Rav Nechumi, Istami Rav Chananya Bar Minyumi Labaya Mimai de Bechad Beidin Iskin. Says no. How do you know? That's only if the two things, the two lashonis, the matana and the ksuba, the matana and Yerusha, are both coming from the same person. But if one Tnai Bezdin came from one Bezdin and the other one was instituted by a different Bezdin, then they're not connected, and the matana lashon won't affect the Yerusha lashon. He said no. The Tani Reisha Zeh Midrash Darish Rabbeloz ben Azariel Fnei Chacham Bekar B'Yavna Habanim Yishuv Habanas Yuzainu. This is that we have the whole provenance of where this takana came from. They learned in Kar B'Yavna, and they said that the sons will yarshin them in Dech, and Habanas Yuzainu, and the daughters get the mezainis. Ma Habanim en Yerushin Ella La'acha Misavin. Habanas LeYuzainu Ella La'acha Misavin. And we use from the fact that they were both darshan at the same time. That teaches you that the daughters also don't get that just like the Yerusha that goes to the son only happens after Misa. This din that the daughters get mezainis also only takes place after the father's death. So so if
gives them a price to feed them while he's the wife.
No, not midaraisa.
His own daughters.
His own daughters.
Okay.
He has. It's the Rishonim all talk about how it's his responsibility and it's certainly the right thing to do, but it's not a monetary chiyuv.
So it's a fine thing to do.
It's certainly a fine thing to do. It's definitely going to shot shidduchim if your
I'll
daughter
let
is.
you know how that works out when I go home today.
LE. But this only makes sense that you could learn out that they both take place after the Misa. If it's the same takana, Eliyama betray Beidina is can hechi alfina takana metakana. How can one takana the other? So no, that's not a right. Might dumala oilam emalach betray Beidina iskin. Really could be from two Bezdin. Beidina Basra talking to Beidina Kama. It could still be two takanas, and therefore it won't have the status of a matana and a Yerusha that were both given. That we say the matana, the matana indicates that Yerusha is also treated as a matana. It was really two separate Beidinim, but we can still deduce that the din of mezainis is la'acha misa because we could assume that the second takana to put into the ksuba would have been made in the same format as the original takana, even if it's two separate Bezdin. Okay.
Very hard to understand the Shakal Kaira of that Gemara.
Yes.
I still don't understand. Okay, if I looked at it in a silo, that Shakal